The leather chair in my corner office at First National Bank still felt surreal sometimes, especially on days like today, when the past came rushing back. I picked up the mortgage application on my desk, my Aunt Margaret's familiar flowery signature sprawling across the bottom. 10 years hadn't changed her handwriting, still pretentious, still trying too hard to look important. "Ms. Carter." My assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "Your 2 p.m. is here, Mrs. Margaret Wilson." I touched the small scar on my right hand, a reminder of the day I tried to save my Harvard acceptance letter from the flames a decade ago. "Send her in, Alice." The Margaret Wilson who walked into my office looked exactly as I remembered: expensive clothes, too much jewelry, and that superior expression that had terrorized my childhood. She didn't recognize me immediately. Why would she? The scared 17-year-old girl in threadbare clothes was now a polished banking executive in a tailored suit. "I'm here to see James Peterson about my mortgage application," she announced without preamble. "Mr. Peterson is on paternity leave," I replied, letting her stew for a moment. "I'm handling his clients. Please have a seat." "Aunt Margaret." The color drained from her face as recognition dawned. Sophie Carter." "It's Executive Vice President Carter now, actually." I gestured to the chair again, enjoying how her legs trembled slightly as she sat. I had no idea you work here," she stammered. Clearly, I opened her file. "You're applying for a $2.5 million mortgage for the Henderson estate on Maple Drive. Quite a step up from your current home." She straightened, recovering some of her composure. "Yes, well, my investment portfolio has done very well. I assume all my paperwork is in order." "Almost." I pulled out a particular document. "There's just one discrepancy regarding your listed assets, specifically the Carter Family Trust." Her fingers tightened around her designer purse. "The Carter Family Trust, my mother's money. The money that should have paid for my Harvard education. The money that mysteriously vanished after Mom died and I was left in Margaret's care." "That trust is perfectly legitimate," she said stiffly. "My sister left it to me to manage." "Did she?" I pulled out another document, one I'd spent years tracking down. "Because I have her last will and testament right here, and it says something very different. The day Mom died, I was 15. Cancer took her quickly, leaving me in the care of her only sister, Margaret. I'll handle everything," Margaret had promised at the funeral. "The money, the trust, your education, just like Claire wanted." What she actually handled was the systematic destruction of every dream my mother had for me. "You forged Mom's signature," I said quietly. "You transferred everything into your name while I was still in shock from her death. You used my college fund to start your investment company. Did you think I'd never find out?" "You can't prove anything," she snapped, but fear flickered in her eyes. "Actually, I can. Would you like to see the forensic accountant's report? Or should we discuss the original trust documents I found in your old attorney's archived files?" "What do you want?" Her voice was barely a whisper. I leaned back, remembering that night 10 years ago. I had been accepted to Harvard on a partial scholarship, just like Mom always dreamed. The acceptance letter arrived while Margaret was hosting one of her fancy dinner parties. "Look." I burst into the dining room, waving the letter. "I got in. Mom's scholarship fund can cover the rest, just like she planned." Margaret had snatched the letter, read it with narrowing eyes, then held it over a candle. "Trash like you doesn't belong in Harvard," she'd sneered as the paper caught fire. "Your dead mother's scholarship money is wasted on you." I still have the scar from grabbing at the burning letter. "I want what you stole," I said, now my voice steady. "The trust plus 10 years of interest. And I want the truth told to the entire family about where Mom's money really went." "That's ridiculous. I'll be ruined." "You should have thought about that before you burned my future." I closed her mortgage file. "Your application is denied, by the way, and given the evidence of fraud I've uncovered, I expect the SEC will be very interested in reviewing your investment company's records." "You can't do this to me," she hissed. "I raised you." "No, you housed me. There's a difference." I stood. "You have 24 hours to transfer the trust money, all of it, back to me with interest. After that, this file goes to the SEC and the district attorney. And if I do this, transfer the money, then you get to keep your company, your reputation, and your freedom. Though not, unfortunately, your dream house." I smiled. Considerate interest on a 10-year-old debt. She stood on shaking legs, her carefully maintained facade crumbling. You're just like your mother, always so self-righteous. Thank you, I said sincerely. That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me. After she left, I sat in my quiet office, looking at the Harvard diploma hanging on my wall. I made it there eventually, working 3 jobs to pay my way, graduating with honors despite everything Margaret had done to stop me. My phone buzzed. A text from my husband. Did you do it? Did you finally confront her? Yes, I typed back. Phase 1 complete. Want to guess how quickly she'll transfer the money? Knowing Margaret, she'll wait until hour 23 just to be spiteful. I laughed because he was probably right. But it didn't matter. I'd waited 10 years for this moment, built my career carefully, worked my way up through the bank until I was in exactly the right position. Margaret thought she burned my future that night, but she only forged it into something stronger. My assistant buzzed again. Ms. Carter. Mrs. Wilson's attorney is on line 1. I smiled. Maybe I wouldn't have to wait 23 hours after all. Put him through, Alice. I picked up the phone, ready for the next round. Executive Vice President Carter speaking. Let's talk about making things right. The next morning, I arrived at my office to find 3 urgent messages from Margaret's attorney and a bank transfer notification. She'd paid, all of it, down to the last penny, plus interest. The timestamp showed 3:47 a.m., proof that Aunt Margaret had spent a sleepless night weighing her options before finally admitting defeat. But I knew her too well to think this was over. Alice, I called to my assistant. I need you to pull the records of every loan Margaret Wilson has ever taken from First National, and get me Trevor from legal. By noon, I had the full picture of Margaret's financial house of cards. The investment company she'd built using my mother's stolen money was leveraged to the hilt, with First National holding most of the notes. One phone call from me could trigger a cascade of financial devastation. But that wasn't my style. Mom always said revenge is a dish best served with a lesson. My office door burst open and Margaret stormed in, followed by a flustered Alice. I'm so sorry, Miss Carter. She just pushed past me. It's fine, Alice, I assured her. My aunt and I have unfinished business. Margaret looked different today. Gone was the designer outfit, replaced by a hastily thrown together ensemble that still probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. Her eyes were red-rimmed from lack of sleep. You've got your money, she spat. What more do you want? Please, sit down, I said, gesturing to the chair. Let's discuss the family dinner this Sunday. She froze. What family dinner? The one where you'll explain to everyone exactly what happened to my mother's trust fund. I pulled out my phone. I've already texted the entire family. They're all very interested to hear your explanation of where Mom's money went. You wouldn't dare. Actually, I would. But here's the interesting part. I'm giving you a choice about how this plays out. I handed her a folder containing 2 documents. Option 1. You tell the truth voluntarily, make a public apology, and I help you restructure your company's debt to keep it afloat. Option 2. You try to lie your way out of it, and I call in every loan First National has ever given you. You destroy my company, everything I've built. Everything you built with stolen money, I corrected. But no, I don't want to destroy it. Unlike you, I understand the value of building things. She flipped through the documents, her hands shaking. This restructuring plan, you've already worked it all out. I spent 10 years watching you, Aunt Margaret, learning how you think, how you operate. I knew exactly how this would play out. I leaned forward. You're good at business. I'll give you that. You took Mom's money and turned it into something impressive. Imagine what you could have done if you just helped me instead of trying to destroy me. For the first time in my memory, I saw something like shame cross her face. Why did you do it? I asked quietly. Mom loved you. She trusted you to take care of me. Margaret stared out my office window for a long moment before answering. Claire had everything so easy. The grades, the Harvard scholarship, the perfect daughter. I was always the screw-up sister, the one who had to claw her way up. When she died, she took a shaky breath. When she died, I saw a chance to finally prove I could be successful too. By stealing from a grieving teenager? By taking an opportunity, she snapped, but the fire had gone out of her voice. I convinced myself you were young, that you'd bounce back, that the money would be wasted on college when I could turn it into an empire. And burning my acceptance letter, was that part of your business strategy? She had the grace to look ashamed. That was pure spite. You looked so much like Claire in that moment, so bright and full of promise. I wanted to hurt her, but she was gone. So you hurt me instead. Yes, she met my eyes for the first time. I've spent 10 years justifying it to myself, but yes, I hurt you because I couldn't hurt her anymore. I let the silence stretch between us, heavy with a decade of pain and resentment. Sunday dinner is at 6 p.m., I finally said. Tell the truth, make it right with the family, and I'll help you save your company. Try to lie, and I'll bury you so deep financially you'll never recover. And then what? She asked. We pretend to be one big happy family. No, then we acknowledge the past and decide if there's any future worth building. That's up to you. She stood slowly, clutching the folder to her chest. You really are just like your mother, always finding a way to take the high road. No, I corrected her. I'm my own person. Mom would have forgiven you instantly. I'm offering you a chance at redemption. But forgiveness? That you'll have to earn. As she reached the door, she paused. The trust money. What will you do with it? I smiled. What Mom always intended. I'm starting a scholarship fund for kids who've lost their parents. Because everyone deserves a chance at their dreams, even if some people try to burn them. After she left, I pulled out the old photo I keep in my desk. Mom and Margaret at my 10th birthday party, both smiling, both still alive with possibilities. Before cancer took one sister and bitterness consumed the other. My phone buzzed with a text from Margaret. I'll tell the truth on Sunday. All of it. And Sophie, I'm sorry. It wasn't enough, not by a long shot, but it was a start. I texted back. Bring Mom's bourbon pecan pie recipe to dinner. It's time it came back to the family. Because sometimes healing starts with the smallest things, a recipe passed down, a truth finally told, or an acceptance letter that, though burned, led to a future its destroyer never could have imagined. Sunday evening arrived with the weight of a decade's worth of secrets about to break. I stood in my kitchen, putting the finishing touches on Mom's lasagna recipe when my husband Mark wrapped his arms around me. You ready for this? He asked, knowing how much was riding on tonight's dinner. Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw cars filling our driveway. The entire family arriving together, probably after Margaret had called an emergency pre-meeting. Typical. She always did like to control the narrative. The next few minutes were a blur of hugs and greetings as aunts, uncles, and cousins filed in. Margaret entered last, clutching a bourbon pecan pie that looked exactly like Mom's. Our eyes met briefly, and I saw both fear and resolution in hers. Once everyone was seated around our dining room table, the tension became palpable. They all knew something big was coming. The mysterious text about an urgent family dinner had made sure of that. Before we eat, Margaret began, her voice shaking slightly. I have something to tell you all. She looked at me, something I should have said 10 years ago. For the next 20 minutes, the room sat in stunned silence as Margaret confessed everything. The forged documents, the stolen trust fund, the burned acceptance letter, every bitter action she'd taken against her dead sister's daughter spilled out like poison finally being drawn from a wound. When she finished, Aunt Sarah, Mom's closest cousin, stood up so quickly her chair fell backward. How could you? Claire trusted you. Let her finish, I said quietly, and all eyes turned to me. Margaret pulled out a thick envelope. I've prepared documentation of everything I took with interest and proof that it's all been returned to Sophie. Her hands trembled. I also have my resignation letter as head of Wilson Investment Group. The company will be restructured under new leadership. Uncle Robert, always the family peacemaker, cleared his throat. Why now, Margaret, after all these years? Because Sophie gave me something I never gave her, a choice. Margaret's composed facade cracked slightly. She could have destroyed everything I built, but instead, she looked at me. Instead, she showed me what Claire would have done. I stood up, moving to the sideboard where I'd place a stack of papers. The company will be restructured as the Claire Carter Memorial Investment Group, I announced. 50% of all profits will fund scholarships for students who've lost parents. The other 50% will keep the business running, with Margaret staying on as an advisor, if she agrees to oversight and new ethical guidelines. The room erupted in overlapping voices, some protesting, others questioning, a few supporting. I let them talk, watching Margaret's face as she processed what I was offering. "Why?" she whispered when the noise died down. "Why would you let me stay involved at all?" I picked up Mom's old photo album, opening to a specific page. "Because of this." The photo showed Margaret teaching me to ride a bike at age 6, both of us laughing. "Before bitterness ate you alive, you were the aunt who taught me to ride bikes and bake pies. Mom loved you, believed in you. Maybe it's time someone did that again." Aunt Sarah scoffed. "You're being too generous, Sophie." "No," I corrected. "I'm being smart." Margaret's brilliant at business. She proved that by turning Mom's trust fund into an empire. I'm just ensuring that brilliance serves the right purpose from now on. I passed around copies of the restructuring plan. The Scholarship Foundation launches next month. Margaret's knowledge can help it grow, help it reach more kids like me. But this time, she'll be building something worth being proud of. Margaret wiped tears from her eyes. The first genuine emotion I'd seen from her in years. "I don't deserve this chance." "Probably not," I agreed. "But Mom always said family is about giving chances, even when they're not deserved. Just don't waste this one." The rest of dinner was quieter, heavy with processing and reflection. As people began leaving, Margaret lingered behind, looking lost in a house she'd never visited before today. "The pie," she said suddenly. "It's not quite right. Claire used more bourbon, and she always insisted on hand-cracking the pecans." I smiled. "I know. She wrote the real recipe in her diary. I've had it all along." Margaret laughed softly, the sound rusty with disuse. "Of course she did. Claire always had a backup plan." "She did," I agreed. "And she had faith in both of us. Faith that I find my way despite losing her. And faith that you find your way back to being the sister she loved." As Margaret left, she paused at the door. "I'll do better, Sophie. With the company, with the scholarships, with being your aunt." "I know you will," I said. "Because this time, you're not just proving something to Mom or me. You're proving something to yourself." After everyone was gone, I sat in my quiet kitchen, looking at Mom's old recipe box. Inside, tucked behind the pie recipe, was a letter she'd written to Margaret just before she died. "Take care of my Sophie. Help her shine." It had taken 10 years, a burned acceptance letter, and a long road of revenge turned redemption. But finally, Mom's last wish was coming true. Not the way she planned, but maybe exactly the way it needed to. I picked up my phone and texted Margaret. "Board meeting tomorrow at 9. Bring coffee and Mom's real pie recipe. We've got scholarships to plan." Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemy. Sometimes it's about destroying their capacity for enemies altogether.